the term annotation?
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that where you like talk to someone and they'll write it down for you, or I think something else?
You can't annotate that way. Kevin?
It's whenever you take a piece of a speech or any piece of literature, any writing, I guess, and just go through it and kind of correct and analyze and just really
That's exactly
dig
right.
through the
Yes.
meaning.
Basically, annotating is can I get a paper? You may. Annotating is taking a text and marking up all the important parts of it, okay? You're going through, you're highlighting words, ideas, concepts, phrases, because you're trying to search for some kind of meaning within that text. Now, the really important thing about annotation is you can't just read 5 sentences and mark one thing. When you annotate something, you are bleeding on that page, for lack of a better word. If you had a red pen, it would look like you opened up a vein on it, okay? You're marking. It's looking not only for the obvious, because you want to mark the obvious things, but it's also looking for those subtle things. Is there a word that jumps out at you? Is there a phrase? Do you notice repetitions in sentences? Remember when we did, when we went through and we did diddles and we did soapstone? That is part of what we do when we're annotating, okay? But for this activity, we're going to be looking for rhetorical strategies. Okay? We've talked about logical fallacies. We've talked a lot about these things. Now you're going to get to go through this excerpt from Lincoln's speech called A House Divided. Now, Lincoln gave this speech to the Republican Convention in 1858. He actually lost that election and then came back to then win the next election, and then that's when we got the Civil War, and he gave this speech at the time because he was talking about slavery. A house divided against itself cannot stand. It's a very famous line because he was talking about half being half free and half slave, right? Half the country was free, half the country was enslaved. Okay, you had the Mason-Dixon line that kind of divided that, all right? So this is just an excerpt from the speech. You guys are going to annotate this, and I have created a packet for you. Now, those of you in study skills, as I'm grading the rhetorical analysis essays, what I'm seeing is that a lot of you didn't really follow the packet that closely. This packet is a much shorter version of that, but if you go step 1, step 2, if you follow it through, you're going to be able to do the annotation. All you have to do is annotate it. I'm not going to actually make you write anything about it or anything. I just want you to really do a good job annotating. I'm going to show you some examples here really quick. Here's an example of a different speech. This is a speech by President Obama on the MLK Memorial Dedication. Look at all this writing on this page. There is a ton underlined. There's stuff out here. Now, you might circle something and go, this stands out to me, but I don't know what it is. Well, the good news is I've included a list of rhetorical devices. I've included a list of rhetorical strategies, things like that. You might know it's imagery, but maybe it's something more than that. You can look it up. Like, she's got a NAFRA out here. She's noticing the syntax. She's noticing, oh, there's a symbol. There's a metaphor. Oh, I see a paradox. There's an appeal to emotion. All right? So we can look for those logical fallacies. They're not always bad, right? They're effective, right? Appealing to people's emotions, appealing to logic. Those things are the things that we're looking for. So she's noticing, where commas are. She's noticing specific words that are used. And those of you in study skills did a good job of identifying language. You just didn't do a great job of carrying it through to that next step of saying, he says this, well, what does that mean? Take it through that next step. Okay, that's just for study skillers. So look at this, kind of use this as a reference for how much you need to write on the page, okay? If you're not even sure why it stands out to you, doesn't matter. Circle it, underline it anyway. Drew.
Is this on Echo?
Yes, it is. Everything's on Echo. Okay. So, the packet that I gave you is also attached to the activity, annotating what do I do, okay? So, the one thing you always have to keep in mind when you're annotating is the audience. Who is this for? We know this directly is for the convention, the Republican Convention. Okay, he was giving the speech to it, but it's also on a larger scale for the American people because this was printed and then in newspapers and handed out, right? So who is the audience? All right, be thinking about that as you're writing because you're going to be looking for those things. They're going to trying to appeal to that audience. Okay, like it says, like I just said, it should be totally marked up. So you're going to complete the steps in order. Step 1 has you go through and mark everything you think is important without even knowing why you think it's important. Then step 2 through 6 has you go back and actually identify those things that you marked. Okay, so you're going to go through, read it once, underline, mark. You may actually notice more things as you keep going through it. But you're going to mark everything you think is relevant. And then you start with analyzing diction, and I give you lots of diction words for tone, right? Maybe it's casual, maybe it's angry, maybe it's stern, whatever. Okay, lots of diction words here. You're going to look for imagery. You guys know what imagery is. That's so easy for you. I don't even have to explain that. You're going to look for syntax. I give you some explanations on that. Now, short sentences, long sentences. Remember with Kennedy, that one speech, lots of short imperative sentences. Short imperative sentences. That was a style for Kennedy. Okay? And then you're going to look for tone. You guys are getting better at this. You're getting to where you're able to kind of feel the tone. You may not have the exact word for it, but you know, oh, he sounds kind of angry. Go find a better word for angry. Okay? You know that maybe it's not angry as much as it is subversive or something like that. Okay? And then finally, you're looking for logos, ethos, and pathos. I have, just in case you've forgotten, even though you should know this, what those are. Ethos being credibility, pathos being the emotional, and logos being the logical appeal. Those could also work with your logical fallacies. Okay, so all you're doing, marking it up and trying to identify those things. Does that make sense? Do you guys feel confident about that? Okay, you can look at that example that I have from MLK's, the President Obama's MLK dedication speech. You're welcome to look at that as an example. At this point, I'm giving this to you kind of cold and letting you do it on your own, see where we get. Then you're going to bring it back this week. On Thursday, we're going to look at it. You guys are going to bring them. I'm going to actually pull them up. I'm going to put some of them under the document camera. We're going to look and see what people identified. We're actually going to kind of walk through the process as a class after everybody makes an attempt, okay?
Okay.
Questions, comments, concerns, objections? Christian?
When this is due?
This is due Thursday, when you come to class Thursday. Okay?
Okay.
All right, get to work.